What's up, guys? My name is Eric. This video here is about the last conversation I had with my dad before he committed suicide. My dad committed suicide in August 2017. He committed suicide on the 13th of August. And this is my experience actually talking to him and what it was like as the last time that I actually got a chance to talk to my dad. If you're new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button. I share all about suicide awareness, suicide prevention, sobriety, mental illness, mental health. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm none of that. My name is Eric. I'm diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, MDD, and GAD. I lost my wife and my father to suicide. I'm a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. And I like to be able to share all my experiences that I can to help people understand and to not feel alone. The last conversation I ever had with my dad was on August 11th. August 11th is a Friday. Which is really ironic that I'm shooting this video on March 11th, which is the same type of date. I'm weird like that. But this was the last conversation I had with my dad. Up until this point, I was a hardcore alcoholic cocaine addict. I watched my life destroy itself on July 25th, 2017. It was my first day being sober. I was a raging alcoholic, cocaine addict. I was doing 1 to 2 8 balls of cocaine a day. I was drinking 3/5 of vodka a day, starting at 7:30 in the morning until I passed out. And I literally ruined my life. Getting sober was hard enough, and it was something I was really proud of. But one of the things that my rock was my dad. So definitely during the sobriety process, I'm on the phone with my dad a lot. During the whole blow up of when all the shit got real, my dad was on the phone as my wife's throwing knives at me. I don't blame her. She should have hit me with one of them. Shit got real. That's the reality of addiction. It all blew up. And my dad was my go-to. He was my rock. So I ended up talking to my dad pretty much every other day. And my dad seemed fine. My dad was my dad, My dad is a doctor. He is Dr. Barrett Zink. He's a family practitioner in Michigan. And he was always there for me. He always had a very calming voice, and just he had a lot of empathy and sympathy, and he was like I could just hug my dad. We didn't always have the best of relationships, but later on in life, him and I had a really phenomenal relationship, and I'm thankful for that. And so during this process, I ended up moving out of my condo. I ended up staying with a friend, and I was talking to my dad a decent amount, and he was at a helicopter rally. My dad got into these hobbies, and he was all in on these hobbies when he'd get in on one. And when it was motorcycles for a while, we had tons of motorcycles and drag bikes. It was skydiving for a while. He got into these RC helicopters. He's at an event in Indiana, I think it was. And I remember talking to him and just, hey, how are you doing? How are you doing? We're both kind of worried and nervous about the same thing. My dad was worried and nervous about retiring, and I had lost a good paying job. I started, my job search again because I needed to get a job. I was kicked out of my house, so it was we kind of were relating that way, and we laughed a lot. My dad was always on the phone with him. He was always happy. You never noticed if my dad was mad on the phone. He had an ability to cover that up like no other almost. And so we would laugh at, hey, we're kind of going through the same thing, hey, we're here again, and that's okay because we got each other. And a lot of our conversations were hey, we got each other. And so he was at this rally, and I remember also talking to my mom during this time, and my mom's yeah, Dad's down there, and bouncing my calls and stuff back and forth off of all of them. And I was calling him about every other day. Just because this was big, my first week of sobriety. Hey guys, I made a week of sobriety. Here's my 24-hour tokens now. And I guess what? I got 7 of these because I made it 7 days. And then all of a sudden, the next thing comes around, and it's 4 days, or it's 2 weeks. And I was really excited because I started getting to the point that, okay, I'm 2 weeks sober, 2.5 weeks sober. And the first 2 weeks I talked with him nonstop, and I started backing off my phone calls because I didn't want to be a burden to my parents, and I didn't want to be a hassle to my parents. So it gets to the week of the 11th. The 11th is on a Friday in August in 2017. I talked to my dad 3 times that week. And the first time I talked to him was on Tuesday, which that was what my sobriety date was falling on, was every Tuesday was another week sober, another week sober. I'm like, hey, guess what? I hit my 3 weeks. I was all excited. I hit my 3 weeks sober. Next week at this time, I'm a month sober. Like, that was a huge accomplishment for me. And he was rooting me on. I talked to him again on Wednesday, and we talked for a little bit of just the stress. He was worried mom wanted to move to Florida. He's not sure if he wants to do it, what's kind of going on. And it was a briefer call. And then Friday the 11th was the last time I ever talked to my dad. It was at nighttime, and I called them up, and my parents had this great ability that they'd put themselves on speakerphone. And my mom picked up the phone. Hey, how are you? Dad's here too. And I hear dad in the back. Hey man, how are you? And I was just like, hey, just calling you guys, seeing how you're doing. Sundays was my home meeting for AA. And so this Sunday coming up was when I was going to go to my home group AA meeting. That was the one that I wanted always my chips from. And just, hey, I'm still sober, just things are getting a little bit better. I had a job now at that point. I was a manager at another RV dealership. And we were just laughing. And I remember telling them that, hey, I know that I call you guys pretty much every day, so I'll give you a break this weekend. And I won't call you until next week. I'll call you guys on Monday to see how the weekend went for you. And the last things that my dad ever said to me, he was laughing on the phone. He was laughing in the background because we laughed a lot. We all did. And we still do. But we laughed a lot. And he was like, hey, I love you. Because we never hung up the phone without saying, I love you. And I was like, I love you, Dad. He's like, I love you too, man. I love you too, son. And I hung up the phone. And I didn't know that was the last time I was ever going to talk to my dad. That I never, ever could hear his voice again. And it's a reminder that not to hang up the phone with somebody unless you tell them that you love them. Especially if they're close, because it could be the last time. He was happy. You couldn't tell what was going on in his head. You couldn't tell that Saturday would come and Sunday would come and he wouldn't make it past Sunday. He was happy on the phone. Saturday comes, and I'm proud that I didn't call him. I had to force myself not to call him. Sunday comes. I get my token, because I was still getting 24-hour chips at the time. And my wife and I had started dating again. I had it in my pocket. My mom has that chip now. And that was the night that I got a phone call that they found Dad's body and he'd committed suicide. And when you are truly in that place, you do put up the fakest smile. You do pretend more than anything that everything's okay. All I can say is just let the people around you know that they matter. Listen to listen. Don't listen to respond. Act with kindness. And you can make more of a difference in their lives than you know. To anybody that's lost anyone out there, my heart goes out to you. Because I know that pain. Hindsight's 20/20. Don't live in that. Because it'll eat you up. It'll eat you up. But it's true. Some of the happiest people are suffering the most. And if you are struggling out there, reach out for help. Believe me, you're wanted. You're loved. We want you here for a lot longer. Hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below. In the description box is all my different social medias, all my different links. I even have links down below to the mental health Discord. It's peer-to-peer support, bridging the gap between crisis hotline and therapy. Just tools, experiences, and resources. I have links down below to things on Amazon, fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things I use for my anxiety. Even have a link down below to BetterHelp. It's trial and error to find out what works for you. Biggest thing is don't give up. You're a BAMP. You're a badass motherfucker. You made it through 100% of your worst days and make it through 2 today. So hit that like and subscribe button. Let's do this together.